Once you've got your Assemble account set up, you're going to get an email invite that will take you to a page that looks like this. Your account URL will likely be your company name.tryassemble.com. Once you've reached this page, you can either sign in using your existing Assemble login, or you can create a new login, or you can sign in with your Autodesk ID if you have got one from a BIM 360 account or another Autodesk account. By clicking sign in here, it's going to take me to my accounts projects landing page. From here, I can see all of the projects, but before we dive into that, I want to show you the resources and some of the administrative stuff associated with Assemble. So first, up here on the top right is going to be one of the best resources for you. This question mark here will take you to the Assemble help page, which is our Autodesk Knowledge Network. This is a great resource for finding how-to guides within Assemble. In addition to this question mark, you have the forum, so the community forum. If I click this community, this will also take me to the Autodesk Knowledge Network, but this is actually the community forum where you can come in and post questions and interact with other Assemble users. Also within this question mark here, you can contact support. So this is for your technical issues. I always suggest when contacting support, if you've got an error message, screenshot that error message so that then when you talk with support, they don't have to recreate the issue. They can see the error message that you encountered, and that will help them move along with getting it resolved quicker. Another thing for when you contact support is just understanding where you can learn about your version. So if you click this about link, it will take you and it'll show you the version of Assemble that you're using. Next, up here, you've got your profile. So if you select your profile, you can go into your account. You can change your name or email address, and you can also change your notification settings. So these notification settings will allow you to get updates via email when models are published to the project you're a part of, or you're added to a project. So I suggest with new users and new accounts to select this notify me. And if it becomes too much, you can always come in here and turn it off. All right, the next thing here is admin. So if I go into admin here, this is where I can set up the administrative settings for this particular account. Not everyone will have this link. If you are a project admin or someone else, or an account admin, or someone else has granted you account admin access, you will have it. From here, this is where I can manage users at the account level. So in order to be invited to a project, a user has to first be added at the account level here within administration. I can see a list of all the users that are in this account right now. And I can also see deactivated users by selecting this. In addition to seeing the deactivated users, I can come in and I can resend an invite, or I can copy a link so that I could paste it into a messaging app like email or Slack to resend this to a user that I want to have access to this account. If I want to add a user, all I have to do is go up here to add user, select add user, type in their name, their email address, and then select whether or not I want them to be an administrator. The next thing here in administration is licensing. If you click licensing, it will show the licensing model that your particular account is currently under. Since this is an internal demo account, we have unlimited active projects per month, and we have 18 active projects this particular month. If you have any questions about your particular licensing, you can select this link and it will get you in touch with the internal resources here at Autodesk to get you the information you need. You can also see a little bit of information related to the activity on projects. So you can see, for example, in May, these 18 projects have had activity. There are other projects that have had activity in previous months, and they're shown here. The next thing here is Assemble Properties, and we're going to go into Assemble Properties in a little bit more detail once we actually get into the model viewer. But I want to point out that there are account level Assemble Properties. So we'll have both account level and project level Assemble Properties. This is where the account level properties are assigned and managed. So when you publish a project from Revit or Navisworks or another authoring tool, all of the properties that are associated with that, the objects in that model, are going to get pushed through as model properties. Well, in addition to those model properties, we want to be able to sort things by custom properties, and that's essentially what assemble properties are. So all of these properties here, except for the ones in gray, are properties that our users have come in and manually created in this account, so that then they can further filter things within the model to look at them in different condition views. So you can import those properties from a project. If someone has created a good number of good assembled properties in a project, you can import them to the account level here. You can also create a property by selecting create, and then you could name this property whatever you'd like. You can also group those properties. So once I've created a certain set of properties, I can add them into a group. For example, you can see that here under project management. So we've got a grouped set of properties there. And you can also create a group of properties by saying create group. As I said, we'll get into this in a little bit more detail in the demo of the model itself, the model viewer itself. But if you've got questions about assemble properties, you can always click on this link, Managing Assemble Properties, to get more information. So now I'm going to navigate back to our projects page. So at this point, many of our users are now wondering, well, this is great, but how do I get my models into Assemble? And it's a pretty simple answer. This Get the Add-in link will take you to our Resources and Downloads page, where you can download the add-ins for your design tools to get your models into Assemble. So here you can see this one add-in can be used for both for Revit, AutoCAD, and Civil 3D, and then the other one here for Navisworks. So here's the two publishing tools that we've got. When you download one of these, what'll happen is you'll just get a little add-in in that tool itself. So I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like here in the publishing process looks like in Revit. So once you've downloaded that add-in to Revit, what's going to happen is atop the ribbon here, you're going to get this Assemble tab. Once you're in a project that you'd like to publish to Assemble, all you have to do is come over here to the left and select Publish. Once you select Publish, this Assemble action window is going to come up and ask you which account you want to publish to. So type in the URL of your account here and then select Connect. Once you've done that, it's going to ask you to select a project to publish to. You can create a new project by selecting Create a Project, or you can select an existing project. In this example, we're going to do Francis Hall. Select Continue, and then we're going to have the ability to publish to existing models or new models within that particular project. We also have some publishing settings here, so we can publish with the filter using current views, visibility, and graphics overrides from the tool you're in. And you can also determine the element mesh detail that you want to publish to. Fine being greater detail, this is a little bit more detail in the rendering, and coarse obviously is a little bit less. Also here, you can provide the model that you want to publish to. So if you want to publish to an existing model like we're doing in this particular example, you can select it here. If you want to create a new one, all you have to do is create one over here. So we've selected this particular Autodesk Place Architectural, and I'm going to say Continue. Once I've done that, Assemble is also going to ask us if we want to publish any sheets from this Revit model. So we can publish sheets from the Revit sheet set. So if we have existing sheet sets set up, we can do that. In this example, we've got a room status sheet set, so we could publish that if we'd like. We can also publish all the sheets that are in the current Revit project, or we can publish none of the sheets. This is, we always suggest publishing the sheets, but if your publish process is taking a long time, sometimes that can be due to a lot of sheets being associated with it. So in that case, we suggest publishing sheets from a particular sheet set or not publishing sheets at all. Next, and finally, we just can put a little bit of information into the version here. So anytime we publish a model from Revit into Assemble, if that's the first model, it's going to automatically call that V1. Any subsequent models would be V2, V3, V4, etc. Here you can also add a little bit more information to that version name. So in addition to Assemble automatically saying V1, V2, V3, etc., you can say this is 50% DD or 100% DD or an ASI set, and you can also put a little bit of information into the version comment here. So once we've entered that information in, all we do is select publish, and then Assemble is going to publish that model, or pardon me, Revit is going to publish that model into Assemble, and we'll get an email notification when that has been done. So now I'm going to jump back into Assemble here. So back on my Assemble project page here. Now, now we want to actually go in and look at the project itself. So you can search for a project here. You can change the grid view or list view. You can also sort. You can view archived projects. And you can create a new project. So I'm going to search for this Francis Hall project, and that's where we're going to go in for the demo today. So you can see when I type in FRA, it brings up any project with that in the name or also in the description. So here with Francis Hall, you can see that this particular project is linked to a BIM 360 account. So I can link documents into this particular project, and I can also create issues in this project that are then pushed to BIM 360. So I'm going to select Francis Hall here. And now it takes us to the project landing page. So you can see on the left side, I've got all the models that are published into this particular project. Here in the middle are all the filtered views that have been created for this project or imported into this project. So here's an example of a concrete or a structural filtered view. You can see down here, there's some additional ones. We've got a drywall view or a door view. Essentially what these views are filtered or conditioned views of objects within the model in a particular way that we want to see them. So we're going to jump into that in just a second, but before we do that, I want to show you that you can edit these project settings in here. So up near the top right here, if you go to Edit Project, you can come in here, you can rename the project, you can add a job code or description. You can also choose a file for a project image. And then you can change the card color for this particular project. In addition to that, we've got data trees and assemble properties, which we're going to dive into in a little bit more detail here. But really quickly, I'll just go into manage assemble properties here and show you that at the proper project level, you also have these assemble properties similar to how I demonstrated them at the account level. So here we've got our manually created assemble properties. We've also got our groupings. Similar to the account level, we can import properties from other projects, or we can create properties pretty easily, or create a grouping. So data sets can be used with assemble properties as a way to enter in a large amount of information to be selected from. So we use data trees to, for example, if we wanted to create an assemble property that was a CSI code, we could then use the data tree and import in we could import in the CSI codes and their associated descriptions, as opposed to having to type them in individually every time. So data tree will give the user who's selecting a property the ability to just select from a dropdown as opposed to typing it in. So that can help with standardization of codes and also just with time management so that you're not having to type things in for everything every time. Data trees is something we'll get into in a lot more detail in some of these subsequent sessions here, which will be related to site-con workflows and pre-con workflows. All right, next you can change your project units from imperial to metric. It's pretty straightforward. Then up here at the top right is where you can link a project to a BIM 360 project. So again, by linking a project to a BIM 360 project, you can use the documents that are in BIM 360 and assign them to objects within the model in Assemble. Or you can create issues in Assemble, take snapshots, and push those issues into BIM 360. Here's where you can add members to this project. So as I said before, you have to be added at the account level in order to be added at the project level. But once a user has been added at the account level, they can be added into a project here. You can see anyone with admin rights already is in the project and is shown as admin. We do have some users though who have been added only as contributors or viewers. So I'm going to scroll down to one here, and Art Vandelay being that example. So Art Vandelay only has read-only permissions within this particular project, which means he can only access views. So he can access all views and see any of the information. He just can't edit or filter any of it. We could also remove him if we'd like, or we can change his permission to contributor, which gives him the ability to publish models, create views, and edit data. The third and final and the highest permission is obviously administrator, that has full access to publish, edit, manage settings, and assign other Assemble administrators. All right, so that's pretty much the project settings. I'm going to click back here to our project page and point out one more thing before we dive into the model viewer. And that's this import view. From this import view, we can take views that have been created, so any of these views that have been created down here, from other projects, and we can import them into this project. So if we have a user, for example, who's done a supply air duct view in another project and we like the way that he's filtered it and sorted it, what we can do is find that particular view in a project here. I can go into this project and I can say, I want that supply air duct colored by level view in here. And then it will add that view to this particular project with those settings. So it can be a great way to leverage the work that some of your colleagues are doing to already create views. All right, so I'm going to X out of this here. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to open up one of our models. So over here on the left side, I'm going to open our structural model. And actually, before I do that, I just want to point out one thing. There are these 3 dots here on the side of the model name. What that is if you go into the 3 dots here, you can see a little bit more information about that particular model. So as I showed you in the publish process, this V1 and V2 will automatically be assigned. When we put those models in, we can also put the version information in here. So someone published this particular model and said it was a 25% DD, then they published a second one and said it was a 50% DD. So by clicking those 3 dots, you can get a little bit more information on the models that are related to this particular architectural model. All right, so I'm going to go into the structural model here. And when I click this in, this is going to bring in our main Assemble page. All right, so from this page, there's 3 basic sections, or I should say 4 basic sections within this Assemble viewer. The first over here is the model tree. So if I click on this model tree, I can see all the models that are associated with this project. So when I click on, obviously I went into the structural, so it's showing the structural. I can also come in here and add in additional models. So I could add in the architectural model. And then in the model viewer and in the inventory, you'll get all the information related to that architectural model as well. So now you can see I've got the architectural model in the 3D viewer also. I can also select a different version. So since we know there's 2 different versions of this architectural model, I could select this little V here. And I could say I actually would rather look at the 25% DD, select that. And then Assemble is going to drop that 25% DD into this model viewer in the inventory. So I'm going to go back to the V2 just for now, but I wanted to point that out. In addition to our model tree on the left side here, if we click that out, we also have our project files. So this is where we could sign into BIM 360 and view project files from BIM 360 right here. All right, next after our model tree is the inventory here. So this inventory is going to show all of the information in list and detail view that's related with this particular model. Just to get a little extra space on the page, I can go up here and turn off the model. I could also close down the model tree, and now I'm just looking at the inventory. So this inventory is going to be automatically categorized by category, family type, and then instance type. I could change this if I'd like by selecting category here and then creating a new grouping. So I could say I want to see a new grouping that's category by level. Any of those groupings that are created will persist in here. So any user that comes in here can use those groupings you've created. So I know that someone has actually previously created a category by level. So I'm going to go in here and select that. And you'll see here, it's still going to show category at this top level. But then if I go in, I can see that the next level in the hierarchy is the level itself that the objects are associated with. So I can click into these items. I can build them all out by selecting the plus or minus, and I can view them however I like in here by any of the properties that are shown in the model or in the assemble properties. In addition to changing the group by over here, I can add columns, remove columns, or rearrange columns by selecting columns here. If I go into this columns tab, I could say maybe I want to see some other information in here, and I'm going to say installation status is what I want to see. When I click that, it's going to drop installation status into my selected columns. Actually, for the purposes of this, I'm going to put this installation status right up here near the front and say done. Actually, I'm also going to get rid of this height one. Show that's going to get rid of it. And now here in my inventory, you'll see here installation status is here. The reason it's not showing anything in that particular level is because we're not looking at the instances. But if we went in here and had assigned an installation status to these properties, which we will do a little bit later on, it would show here in the inventory. All right, we can also use the import and export tool. So that will basically export exactly what we're looking at here. We're going to do that after we actually create a view here a little bit farther along. Okay, so that is the inventory view. So next what I want to show you is the 3D viewer and the 2D viewer. So if I go over here, this is my 3D viewer. So it's pretty straightforward. I can go plus, minus to zoom in, also scroll. I can use this zoom extends tool. So if I have an object selected and use this zoom extends, it's going to drive me right into that object. I can also use this enable zoom marquee. So I can say, I just want to look at this particular area here, and it'll bring me in like that. At any time I get a little disoriented, I can select this home tool and it's going to reset my view to the home view. I can also use these set views to look at particular set views that have already been created. So I can do top, bottom, left, front, back, front, or left, front, right, front, back, left. You can see all kinds of different views that are already set up, and then go back home when I want to. I can also take a snapshot here and capture an image to be shared, and rename the file name if I'd like. You'll also note that when I select an object over here, it's going to also show that object selected here in the inventory view. So I could select this window and then it's shown here, and then I can get some additional information on this particular object, this window in this case. I can also say maybe I want to see all of that family of windows and select this here. And then you can see in the model viewer, it's also selecting all those windows. I can also go into the model tree and say, not only do I want to see this family of windows, but I want to see the entire category of windows. And if I select Windows over here, it will then show all of the windows on the project. Also, we have some additional ways to view things on the top of this model viewer here. So if you've got any associated point clouds, you can click that. You can also use the sectioning tool, which is pretty straightforward. Oops. Then you can also use the exploded view. So let me go back to this exploded view is just a good way to see what's in your model. Next, you can use the measurement tool, which can be really useful. So say I've got this particular window, for example. I can come into this viewer here, and I can measure from point to point. I can also use this edge length. So I could say this, I want to see the edge length of this, and that's 6.5. If I then go into the window here, if I select this particular window, then I can see if that measurement is correct by going over here to, oh, I got rid of height. So let me add back in height real quick. Now that information related to this particular window should be if there. If I select that, I can go over and I can see that my measuring tool is accurate. All right, in addition to that, I can use this rendering tool to see things a little bit differently here in the model. So you can go through these. One of the really cool ones I think is this X-ray. So a good example of this is if I'm trying to select an object that's in the middle of the project and I don't quite know where it is, say a door, for example, an interior door. Let's go select it. I'm going to click off everything here and select a door. So first floor door, go into this. I can use this zoom extends tool to drive me right into where that door is, but that doesn't help me very much when I've got the model rendered the way that it is. So what I can do is I can use this rendering up here to say I want to see X-ray vision and then drive me in. So then I can see where that object is in relation to the rest of the model. Also up here, I can use this document links to toggle on document links. So if I've got links to objects in this particular model, this is how I can turn them on or off. All right, so I'm going to go back to my home view here. Also over here, you've got settings, so you can change your view settings. You can see some of your assemble keyboard and mouse controls. And then this feature is really great, so you can pop out your viewer into a new window. So oftentimes, if you're looking at the inventory, or pardon me, the inventory in your browser, and you need to see the model viewer in a larger way, you can do that. So I can go back down to that. Also, you can toggle on your sheets here. So when I'm in the 3D viewer, I can also see the sheets that were published from this particular Revit model. This can be great for users who aren't too comfortable with the 3D model yet, but want to use the 2D sheets in tandem to sort of get a little bit more comfortable. So you could use this, there's a couple different ways you can use this, but one of the great validation tools that I like with this 3D and 2D is, say I want to validate the takeoff for these piers. I can select this pier here. You can see it's modeled. It's also selected over here in the inventory. I'm going to go and say I want to see the rest of these piers also. It looks like not all of them are being shown, so I want to see what this one is. Okay, so I want to show all these pier P2s and P1s. And now I've got my 2D viewer over here below my 3D viewer. what I can do is I can come into this little hamburger icon here, and it shows me all the sheets that are associated with this particular model, but I'm only interested really in what 2D sheets these piers are on. So I can go over here to select it, and it will bring up the plan that those are on. So then I can select that plan, and now I'm looking at a plan with 2D view with those piers and the 3D view. So I could come into this 3D view and I could say, you know what, I'm gonna look at these from the top. I'm gonna scroll in. Unfortunately, the model is blocking it, so I'm gonna go to X-ray view. So now I can see these piers here on both the 2D and 3D. I can come over here into my inventory and say, I know there's 19 plus another 5, so there should be 24 of these piers. I can quickly count them on my 3D viewer here. And then also count them in 2D, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. And that way I can quickly validate the information that I'm getting my quantity takeoff through assemble is correct. So we find that a lot of our customers who are not used to using the model really appreciate this 2D and 3D model integration here. All right, so I'm going to close this out here. So I'm going to close out my 2D view. And I want to show you now what I was talking about when I was mentioning the model properties and the assemble properties. So what I'm going to do that is go into a different model here. So I'm going to turn off the architectural, I'm going to turn on the mechanical. So now I've got just the structural and the mechanical in here. Oh, and you can see there is a sheet related to the mechanical model, apparently. So that's where you can toggle those on and off. So that's a link to BIM 360. So now I should have my mechanical model in here. Yes, I do. I can also, just to make this a little easier, I can turn off my structural model. So I'm just looking at my mechanical model. And now there we are. I've got my entire mechanical model. So now if I go and select any of these objects, for example, I select this run of duct here, go up to the top right here in my properties, I can see all of the properties that are associated with that particular object. So I've got all my assemble properties. So these are assemble properties that have been created within this particular project and account. And then if I scroll down, I've also got all the model properties. So it looks like there's some insulation information, some basic dimensional information, level down here. Let's see, there's also some system classifications. So these are all useful things to know when I'm starting to create views, because these are the things that I'm going to use to filter stuff out. I've also got, in addition to the model properties for the instance, I've also got some model type properties here. So these are also things that I can sort by. So any property that we see here on the left, either in model properties or assemble properties, are properties that I can group by over here and columns that I can add over here. So one of the things that I see here that would be really useful for sorting is, I know I can sort by the category here, right? I've got all of this category, all of these categories within this mechanical model, so I can sort by that. I can also come and sort by system classification. This is a really useful property to sort by. So what I want to do is I want to just see my ductwork here, and then I want to see just a particular system within that ductwork. So I'm not concerned with any of the hydronic piping that's here, any of the mechanical equipment, any of the wiring. I just want to see my duct. So how do I do that? So I'm going to click this link off just to get that out of here. How I can do that is I come over here into my model and I select visibility settings. If I select visibility settings, this is where I can really start to build out those views that I was showing you on the main project page. So within the Francis Hall mechanical model here, I can add a rule. So if I select this add rule, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you know what, all I want to see here is the duct accessories, fittings, placeholders, ducts, and flex ducts. The rest of the stuff I don't want. So since that's the category here, I'm going to leave that as category name. And I'm going to say I want to show only duct. And I can do this a couple ways. I could say duct accessories, duct fittings, duct systems, duct, or since all of this has duct in it, what I can also do is just say, I want anything that contains the word duct. So if I type that in down here towards the bottom, you can see contains duct. You could also do just exactly duct, but I'm going to do contains duct since some of those category names have duct in it and are not exactly duct. All right, so now if I clicked update, it would just be showing me my duct, but I'm not interested in just seeing the duct. I only want to see my supply air duct. So I'm also going to add a secondary rule. So I'm going to say I want the model to show only the category name that contains duct, and then I want to see a system classification that is supply air. So I'm going to go down here, and I looked at my model properties earlier and saw that system classification was one of the filled in properties. So let's see. Here we go, system classification. And I'm going to then see all of the system classifications that are in this model, but I'm just going to select this supply air one. So now what I want Assemble to do is just show me any object that falls under the category name that contains duct, and then only those objects that are falling within the system classification of supply air. So once I've created this view, all I do is select update, and we should see our inventory and our model viewer change. So now I've got all of my duct only. It's not showing any of those wires or hydronic piping in the inventory. And the same thing here with my model viewer. Now this is a little tough to see sometimes, so there's another way that I can visualize this information a little differently. So if I go over here to the right, I can X this out, and this little paintbrush is my color by property tool. So if I select a color objects by values of the property, right now it's automatically going to be doing that by category name. That's not super helpful for me. What I want to do this by is level. So I select level. It's going to bring up all of those properties with level. I'm going to select level. And then you can see here, it's going to assign those objects a color by level. And I can come in and I can change these levels. If, for example, these two are too similar, I could come into this cog up here and say, for this particular one, that is a little too similar. I can go maybe even a little greener and save. And then you'll just see that as a little more bold. Okay, now that I've created this grouping here, I want my inventory to show the same. So since I had previously put this at category level, it's almost there. But what I want to do, in addition to just seeing this by level this way, I might want to come in here and see maybe an additional property here. So I could edit this category level, and then I could say, I want to do this also by installation status. And then, so this top field is just naming this grouping. And then, so then I put that here, and that puts it here. Now I could say that I want to see this category name by installation status, then by level, but I think I'm going to do level by and then installation status. So if I do that, it will bring this grouping up a little bit differently. So now I can see my level 1 is all installed, level 2 is all not installed, level 3 is not installed. I could also go into these and change these properties over here by going into and selecting that level or any of the objects within it, coming over here and changing this installation status to installed. And then if I do save, I can also then come in and change my color by to be installation status. Oops. And then you can see in my model here that's going to change the view that I see. So you can see on level 1, it looks like I've installed all of my duct. On level 2, I've only installed part of it. Another good way I can visualize this is by going in here and saying, I actually want to see also just my level 2. So I'll go down here and add in a level to my rule. And then I'm going to say I just want to see level 2 because that looks like the one that's in progress. Update that. And now I can see the duct that's been installed on level 2 and the duct that has not been installed on level 2. All right, now if I want to go out and get rid of one of those rules, all I have to do is come in here and select this little X. It's tough to see, but you select that X and then update, and then everything will come back in here. So say this view that I had before of supply air duct by level is a view that I want to save and use later on, or I want to save and apply to other projects. I can come in here now that I've got this, and I can say I want to save this view up here by going Save View and saying Supply Air Duct by level and installation status. Now this view is going to be shown on my main project page. I can access that, and I can also share it with other projects. Also, now that I've got this all set up the way I want to see it, I can export any of this information to Excel. So I can say export this to Excel. Before I do that, I actually want to add in, make sure the installation status is there. So installation status is there in my columns. So that is there. I'm actually going to put this down towards the bottom at this point though. I'll do that. With ductwork, I'm not too interested with the perimeter. The area count is okay for me for fittings, length and installation status. So let's put installation status at the bottom, say done. Any of these black comments over here means that there's multiple values within this particular object. All right, so what I'm going to do here is export this view. And so if I export this view, I can export it exactly as I see it now, or I can export it with all instances. So I'm going to export it with all instances here. And I'm going to save that. Open this up. It's just going to take one moment to open up. And now I want to see my Excel here. So now that I'm in my Excel, I can come in here and see all the information that's in my inventory. I could also come into this installation status here, this property, or any of these other properties that are not filled in, and enter in information and then import this back into Assemble. And then I can actually close these up if I want to see not all the information. So this can be really useful for getting the information out of Assemble and having it in Excel in a way that you can copy and paste it. In some of our later trainings, we'll talk about the Excel Connect tool, which will actually allow you to map cells in Excel to cells in Assemble. All right, so let's go back to our view here in Assemble. And now that we're in here, the last thing that I want to show you is the show changes functionality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the project itself. So into Francis Hall. I've already saved my view, so I don't need to, I've already saved my view, so I'm not worried about saving there. So here in this architectural model, as I showed you before, we have a V1 and V2. So I'm going to go into that and show you how the show changes functionality can be useful. So as this is loading up, it's got my architectural model here that we're all now familiar with. Up here at the top, this show changes. If I select this, this is going to show changes between, in this case, just these two models, which is pretty cool. So as you're getting updated design iterations, you can put those models here into Assemble, and you can see the differences in those models. So if an object has the same GUID from model to model, it's going to persist. If you actually delete that object and recreate it, then it's going to get a new GUID, so it'll throw the system off a little bit. But if you're really just moving things around or adding linear footage or changing the objects that exist, they will be shown here in pretty awesome detail for changes. So you can also export this for your change order management. So if you want to use it as backup for change order pricing, that can be a really useful tool. You can also change these colors and see what each of the colors mean within the model. All right, so that is the basic overview of Assemble.